So, as a society, I think something we suffer from is what I like to call a terminal lack of ambition. What do I mean by that? I mean the things that we're obsessed with as a society are not edifying. They don't lift up man's spirit. They don't really advance our understanding of the world. There's nothing grand about them. There's nothing, I think, really to capture people's imagination. Like, I think a good example of this is the recent budget that came out in Canada. What was it focused on? Correcting a non existent pay gap, ensuring proper representation of minorities, etc. There's nothing grand or even really interesting about it. It's just kind of boring, gives me that, etc. So, for me, one of my favorite periods of human history is probably the space race and kind of the post-war era. Because I like to view this era as having a lot of optimism. Even though the Cold War started, even though there was the whole eve of destruction thing, at the same time there was a lot of hope, kind of like during the Victoria era, that technology would create a better world. That we would eventually leave the Earth behind and that we would go to the stars. The thought process was there was nothing that we couldn't do. And I kind of view it as a time period in which, kind of like building the cathedrals of old, we took the perspective that even if things didn't have an immediate benefit, even if they didn't increase the GDP growth by 0.05% or whatever modern politics is focused on, they were worth doing. If for no other reason than because they were there and because we could. And I think ultimately when it comes to space exploration, when it comes to any kind of advanced technology, you do it because you can. Maybe down the road it gives you a lot of benefits, and the space race ultimately did, but it captures the imagination of society. It gives people something to work toward. It gives them something greater than themselves. Like with the space race, you have the Voyager probes that have been going for decades, and people who built them aren't living anymore. They didn't live necessarily to see their probes exit the solar system and become the first interstellar objects. But they were willing to do that. They were willing to work for something that they may not ever see. And I think that was something very positive for society, and I think that's something we've lost. Now, something I like to talk about that's kind of a crucial part of my ideology is the concept of the infinity will, which was kind of a combination of Spengler's thesis about the will to the infinite and just kind of my own readings from Zoroastrianism and some other stuff about the primacy of will as being the driving force of, I guess you could say, history. That sort of thing. So I view the soul of the West as being the infinity will. That is, as Western man, we suffer and we are blessed by and we suffer from the need to always expand. The need to always develop, to grow, to become better, to become more like God, be it through technology, be it through art, be it through building a better society, to become more moral. We always need more. And this has, I think to a large extent, what's driven us to build skyscrapers, to go to the stars, to invent nuclear power, to just do all these incredible things. And to my mind, the space race kind of represented the highest aspirations of that. The willingness to conquer, and I do mean that term literally, to conquer things that our ancestors couldn't even dream of. I mean, think about it. We were able to go to the moon. And I think, I don't know if you want to say familiarity breeds contempt or something, but for all of human history, we'd looked up at the sky, we'd looked up at the moon as this distant thing. People worshipped it as a god. People thought it was heaven. People thought it was another plane of existence. But we went there. In the post-war era, we sat down, we said, regardless of the money, of the cost, we as a civilization are going to go to the moon. And we did. We conquered the moon. And I think people forget about that. I think people try to minimize that or just not. But we went to the moon. And was there any reason, like, did we need any reason other than the fact that we could? No, we didn't. And that's something I recommend the book Return from the Stars, because the main character comes back from the largest, like an interstellar mission where they go and see dozens of new worlds. They find immense numbers of scientific discoveries, and they come back to Earth and no one's really interested. And the main character goes through a period of depression, and the mission leader says, we didn't expect praise, we didn't expect society to take us seriously. We went there because we could. Because it showed mastery over nature. We went there to prove something to ourselves and to our civilization, and no other reason was necessary. And I think that was the same thing for the moon landing, exploring other planets, eventually building colonies on other planets. I think it gives us something noble to work towards as a civilization, and it gives us, like I said, it shows our mastery over the environment, over nature. And I do believe it is our destiny to spread our light to the stars, to claim all of creation, which I think God has left us. Now, is faster than light travel possible? Most people seem to think no, but that's really no reason to not start thinking about it. To start thinking about maybe colonizing the moon, Mars, maybe building outposts around the other planets. This stuff could take decades or centuries. But like I said, it gives us something to aim towards. It gives us something to elevate us above the poverty of ambition we have as a civilization nowadays. And I think to an extent, and this is I think a big theme in a lot of Nolan's work, and something I really loved about Interstellar, is that there were people who still had the dream, who still had the infinity will, this need to explore and discover. And the rest of humanity had become such a just scraping by, bare minimal survival, etc., to such just a degraded level that it's just, they all were only focused about growing corn, etc., and they were so just anti-ambition that they had altered history to like say that the moon landing was fake, that the space program was bad and a waste of money, all that stuff. Just a complete poverty of ambition, abandoning what makes us Western male and what makes us humanity. So I think that's very basically it. Like, so let's just kind of maybe go a bit more into this. So were there other benefits to the space program? And I regard NASA as being probably the most effective use of government funds in history. It really doesn't cost that much compared to a lot of other departments. And you get all this amazing stuff out of it. Even on its modern budget, NASA was able to launch New Horizons. NASA was able to send a probe all the way across the solar system to calculate all that stuff. New Horizons took pictures of Pluto and Chiron. They took pictures of these immensely distant rock balls. That's incredible. I think we don't really grasp how amazing that is. And they were able to do this for a tiny fraction of what we spend on welfare or diversity programs or any of that other nonsense. We were able to get these amazing HD pictures of distant worlds. Pluto wasn't even a planet. Well, sorry, it's a planetoid now. Pluto was, and Neptune weren't even planets that were discoverable through the naked eye. They had to discover them a lot later. But, so like our distant ancestors, or maybe we do with telescopes, but my point is our distant ancestors prior to kind of the early modern era had no idea these planets even existed. And not only did we discover these planets, but we sent a spacecraft to take pictures of them. Like I said, I think it's something that's very easy to just kind of dismiss. And New Horizons is going to go and study some of the exoplanets and get some more data on them. Like, because I'm in my mid-20s, a lot of this stuff we didn't even know about. Like, we recently discovered Eris, which is a dwarf planet. And we discovered this in 2005. For thousands of years, we didn't even know, I think, that Neptune and Pluto existed. I don't remember if we knew that Uranus existed or not. I don't think we did. But as late as 2005, just over 10 years ago, we discovered this new object that was orbiting the sun. And there's still more exoplanets that we're discovering. And I think that, yeah, we have Dysnomia. And then there's also, I think, Hydra's another planet. But we have all these, we're still discovering things. And even within our own galaxy, our own solar system, I think we're still discovering smaller moons, albeit, but moons around the gas giants. And like I said, it's incredible that all this stuff is there. And this is even just within our own solar system. There's an infinite number of fantastical things to discover throughout the galaxy. Just our galaxy, and there's other galaxies. There's enough for billions of years of exploration. And I'm eager to get started, because to me, this is a lot more interesting. And this is much... being able to send a probe from Earth to Pluto and take pictures of it is a lot more interesting to me and a lot more of an achievement than Justin Trudeau having a gender-neutral cabinet. All ideology kind of aside, that's the kind of thing we focus on. We just don't have this can-do attitude. Like, global warming. Regardless of how you feel about it, we should have solved this problem by now. We should have said, we're going to spend however much money it takes, we're going to make clean fusion power, and everybody's going to have unlimited cheap electricity. And we're going to do it because we can, goddammit. Or if not fusion, we're going to build some amazing new thing that no one's ever thought of before. We as a civilization went from basic propelled, like from Kitty Hawk to landing on the moon in the span of a couple decades. We can go from coal or whatever it is to like some futuristic fusion power in a couple more. But we don't really, I think, have this attitude anymore. It's like 5%, 10%. We're going to raise taxes by 1%. We're going to cut them by 0.5. I screw that. Let's do cool stuff. Like, there's no reason to... Like, you don't need more reason than that. Like, I was looking at my Facebook feed this morning, and there was this 3D printing bionic arms. So apparently they're able to 3D print bionic arms. And these are like the new ones that you plug into the electrodes, like on the hand stump, and the people can think to open and close their hands. And I know that's been around for a while, but the fact that that's not new news to you is incredible. I mean, think about it. For all of human history, people losing limbs would be a death sentence. They'd have to exist on the charity of others. And now these people are able to get new limbs. Maybe like sometime soon we'll be able to, I don't know, they might even be working on it. The limbs will be able to have some sort of feeling in them, some sort of sensation in it. Maybe they'll get better and better and faster and faster. And all these people who will have a new lease on life. That's incredible. That's the kind of thing that deserves our money. Screw just welfare, screw just all these diversity programs. Defund all of that and build cool stuff. Ed women and technology nonsense, build a lunar colony. And I don't know, it's just, to me, like I said, that is what I think is interesting. That is what I think is really fascinating. Like, the earth is the cradle of man, but mankind cannot stay in the cradle forever. What are kind of some other interesting stuff? Like, this is another just incredible thing. A family portrait, obviously advocated by Carl Sagan. Regardless of how you feel about Carl Sagan, he was a great man in many regards. He was a great astronomer and a great scientist. And we were able to take pictures of every planet, except for Mercury, because Mercury is too close to the sun, unfortunately. But we have pictures of all the planets in a family portrait. That's amazing. I mean, look at it. These things that only existed in mythology, and sometimes not even within mythology, we were able to explore. If you look at the Voyager program, stuff we have built as a species is now outside of the solar system and still transmitting data. In hundreds of thousands of years, even if we go extinct on Earth, it'll stand there as an eternal proof of our existence and of our greatness. That we were able to go beyond our planet and into the infinity of space. And like I said, that is, I think, what we should be focusing on. Not returning from the stars, but returning to the stars. Leaving behind all this minutia, this nonsense. I firmly believe that God's greatest gift to us was our reason, our rational soul, our ability to build stuff, our ability to invent things like antibiotics, like refrigeration, like the internet, like spacecraft, to make our lives easier, to let us, because we become close to God through the sacraments, through prayer, through spiritual exercises, but we also do it in a physical way, I think, through science. And like I said, that's the focus. That's screw this stuff, like screw diversity, screw all this other things. I want to go back to the stars. I want to build cool stuff. And there were a lot of other benefits. NASA has a list of technologies that were created because of the space program. And I remember one of the things that triggered me the most in my lifetime was I was reading a book about Austrian economics, and there was a whole section ranting about the space program being like the worst use of money in human history, and how we should have sent robotic probes. And I say, screw that. It was awesome. We got to land on the moon. We got to conquer this thing that just, I don't know. So like we invented, what are some things we invented? It's the space program. Ear thermometers, that's every doctor's office in the world, if it's a proper doctor's office, has one. LEDs completely revolutionized lighting, electronics, artificial limbs from a lot of the different, because they had to build the robotic arms and stuff like that. Anti-icing systems for the spacecrafts, improved tires, chemical detection, fire-resistant material, firefighter gear, enriched baby food, obviously from I would imagine the food they had to build for the space station for astronauts, like more enriched food. Portable cordless vacuums, freeze-drying technology. That is amazing. Let's see here. The final product contains 98% of nutrition and weighs 20% of its original weight. Think about that. That's incredible. Solar powers. Amazing. Water purification. Extremely important. Software. Wall ovens. Look at all the stuff that we were able to produce. Basic products that completely change the way that we live our lives. And people may go, I can't really think of anything else that can come out of this that'll change our lives. And that's exactly the point. People couldn't imagine this stuff 200 years ago. I mean, I'm sure some of this was in like Jules Verne, God bless him, and some kind of the other futurists. But stuff came out of this that no one could have ever thought of. And more stuff will come out of it. We need to give more money to science, more money to space exploration. And like I said, we need a department of cool stuff. We just need to go back to the stars. And like I said, look at this. It's amazing. And I actually teared up when I first saw those images. And it affected me in a way I didn't think it could. But we have to leave behind the poverty of ambition. We have to leave behind this just minutia, this obsession with just virtue signaling and nonsense. And actually achieve something as a civilization that we can look up to and that we can feel proud about. So, that's my thoughts on it. I hope you enjoyed the video. God bless.